So during lockdown in South Africa, guys, that's where I'm from, in Cape Town, there was a period where we weren't allowed to leave the house, right? We weren't allowed to socialize, we weren't allowed to go to parties, and we were basically stuck at home. Like the only things that you could do, I think, is go to the grocery store or something like that. But then there came that little cigarette ban. There was a time where they banned cigarettes. They also banned alcohol for a while. But I remember at that point I was smoking probably around a box of cigarettes per day. And it really got bad during lockdown because I was staying in this small little town, like a little coastal town with my dad at the time. He always decided like he wants to live out far, like he's never really liked the city life, so it's maybe like an hour to an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours out of like the main center here in Cape Town City. But I went and I did lockdown there. Now it's super boring, right? It's a very old, agey type vibe, like bunch of old people. That's where everyone goes to retire. I had no friends there during that time, so I literally caught myself being bored majority of the time. That's actually where the TikTok began. That's where I started building that outdoor gym. Some of you guys might know me from TikTok. That's kind of where it all started. But I got so bored, I ended up just building an outdoor gym, right? With concrete, with cement blocks, and that kept me busy and obviously on track with my goals. But during this time, I caught myself smoking an entire pack of cigarettes per day. Sometimes it would be even more. Because I knew that this lockdown was coming, I went and I bought cartons of cigarettes because I knew that they weren't going to sell. And I didn't want to not have my ciggies, right? So I had a ton of cigarettes, and a couple of weeks passed, and I found that, I'm going through a lot of cigarettes. Like, this is a lot more than normal. And what I came to the realization was that it was actually just a coping mechanism for boredom. And that's where every habit, right, everything that you do has always got a deeper motive. There's always a deeper motive. Every surface level habit that you have has always got a deeper motive. And the same applies with overeating, but we'll get into that in a moment. So I caught myself smoking an entire box of cigarettes. Anytime I'd be in the house and I get bored, okay, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to light up a ciggy, chill on social media, and this would happen, obviously, like 20 times a day plus, because it's about 20 cigarettes in a box. And then I caught myself, I was like, damn, this isn't good, right? And I came to the realization that it was me coping, not with stress, but with boredom. So I said, okay, I need to change this because it's messing up my, first of all, it stinks. It tastes like shit. I'm not sleeping well. My chest is starting to get like tight. Breathing is becoming a little bit more difficult. And it probably wasn't the best thing to do. However, now there's new things saying that nicotine is not the worst when it comes to COVID, but back then it probably wasn't the best thing to do. So I had to cut down. Now, it's very difficult to just stop, right? If you've developed a habit around coping with certain things in a specific way, then it's very difficult to stop, because what else are you going to do for your coping mechanism? So I had to implement certain things to make this action more difficult. Okay, it's some of the laws of behavior change is, in order to change something, you need to make it difficult, make it invisible. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go and throw all of the cigarettes away, because that would be an absolute waste of money. So I implemented something, and I didn't want to fully stop smoking, right? I wasn't ready to fully stop smoking. I just wanted to reduce the amount that I was smoking because it was getting fairly excessive. So here's something that I did. I took the carton of cigarettes, and I still remember putting it at the highest cupboard we had in the house, like at the top of the cupboard, right? So it wasn't inside the cupboard, it was literally on top of it. Now, in order for you to get to that cupboard, you literally need to get a little step ladder and then climb all the way up and then get it. So I put it in the back corner. So on that step ladder, I would literally have to get on my tippy toes. Sometimes I can literally even raise myself above just to get those cigarettes. And then I took the next step and the further step of putting the lighter up there as well, And then I would take the ladder and I would put it underneath the bed in the back corner, right? So anytime I would have to go and get that ladder, I would literally have to move the bed because it's such a small space and I couldn't fit my arm underneath it at that point. So so I basically created friction. I made the act of doing it very difficult. And not just that, I made it invisible, right? So you need to understand, when you get a craving for something, it is because of a cue. It could be a visual cue, it could be a sensory cue in terms of smelling something. Let's say you walk past a bakery and you just get a whiff of like a awesome croissant, and that is instantly going to trigger that craving to get a croissant. So it's important to remove that cue from your environment. So if, for example, this is another one, you've got a jar of cookies sitting on your kitchen counter. Anytime you walk past that jar of cookies and you get that visual cue, it's going to spark like, damn, that's going to taste pretty good. Let me go and grab that. So what I've had to do is I've had to completely redesign my environment to ensure that I don't, first of all, have that visual cue that's going to trigger that craving, and I'd have to replace it. So that was the first step. I've removed it, it's out of sight. The next step is to make it difficult, right? Make it difficult to do, because human nature, we don't necessarily like to do things if it's too difficult, right? All we do is try and simplify. That's all we've done through evolution. Simplify, simplify, simplify. If you think about the Industrial Revolution, everything is to simplify. We've got technology to simplify. We've got AI to simplify. That is literally human nature. That is how we have now been programmed. It used to be all about survival, and now it's basically all about just luxury, comfort, just ease, right? Making everything a lot easier. And that's why I find training is actually so important, and building discipline, because if shit hits the fan and you're so used to comfort, how are you going to survive, right? That's kind of just how I think. But so I put them up there. So now every time I have that boredom, and then it triggers the craving to smoke to satisfy that boredom feeling, what do I have to do? I have to go all the way under the bed, get the step ladder, put it up, climb all the way to the top, come back down, and I just found myself reducing the amount I smoke. Instead of having about 20 cigarettes, like a whole pack a day, I maybe had about 5. So that was a huge difference. And that is all because I became aware of what was happening. I knew that it wasn't just me wanting to smoke. I knew that it was a coping mechanism. Now, the exact same thing applies with overeating. There are so many guys that I've worked with who struggle with food cravings, who struggle with overeating, and it's always got to do with a deeper motive. It is not just because, think about it, you don't just always go to junk food and to shitty food for hunger. No, it's for taste, it's for satisfaction, it's for that dopamine spike at the end of the day, right? And whether it be you've had a stress day, a lot of guys tend to go to eating, like getting junk food, getting sweets, getting something like that. You call it the sweet tooth, but it's because all that does is it releases this dopamine spike. And those foods, those processed foods, have literally been made. Millions and millions of dollars have been pushed into that to make that effect happen, to allow that dopamine spike to occur, so you get that instant satisfaction. Now, there are ways that you can easily rewire that. Yes, it is inevitable that you're going to get stressed out, right? It's inevitable that you're going to get angry, that you're going to have a shit day. But you need to understand, if you've got a specific goal in mind and your current habit is holding you back from getting there, you need to rewire that, because there is a big difference between habits, right? All habits are good in some sense. Smoking, terrible for health, but smoking a cigarette is going to be more beneficial than having to cope with stress, because stress is going to kill you at the end of the day. You don't want cortisol, right? You don't want that stress. It's going to be more detrimental than having a cigarette to cope with that. But for example, if your goal is to become fit, to become healthy, and drop those vices, then no, it is a bad habit, and that is how you distinguish it. But I'm going to go into a Mario board explaining exactly what I'm talking about right now, how that has helped me rewire bad habits that I never wanted anymore, that was literally holding me back, and how you can do the exact same thing, whether it be smoking, whether it be stress eating, whether it be whatever habit it is you think is stopping you from getting that goal, and how you can rewire it and adopt a new habit that is actually just going to push you forward. But guys, we're going to be doing the check-ins today. This is week 10 of the lean mass method, and I've got some news. The lean mass method, as you guys know, is the method that I've used with all of my clients, but I've decided on completely changing that up. And what I mean by that is, no, the method stays exactly the same, but the whole reason of this method is to prime insulin sensitivity. That is what it's about. That is what I've always preached for the past couple of years, because insulin sensitivity is going to be the key for you to build muscle and never put on fat. It is literally the biggest driving factor to you packing on lean muscle tissue and never ever getting fat in the process, right? Because how insulin sensitivity works is, if you're sensitive to insulin, right, your body literally works for you rather than against you. So anytime you have food, right, if it's good, if it's clean, I'm talking about the macros, what happens is that food comes in, your body then shuttles the food to the muscle cell, where it's going to be stored as glycogen, where it's going to be used as energy as well as recovery, right? And that is how muscle is developed. Now, if you are more resistant to insulin, right, your body is literally working against you. So even if you are eating clean, even if you're eating healthy, the food that you're putting in isn't being utilized by your body. Instead of it being pushed to that muscle cell where it's going to be used for growth, it's going to be used for recovery and energy, it is literally being stored as fat. So the main overarching priority is to prime your insulin sensitivity. And it doesn't matter what goal you have. If your goal is to drop weight, you need to be insulin sensitive. Drop fat rather. If your goal is to build muscle tissue, lean quality mass without getting fat every single time, you need to be insulin sensitive. That is that is going to be the key driving factor, and that is kind of why I'm doing a little bit of a rebrand on that, because that is the priority. Okay, so as soon as I've built out, I'm busy building out that as well. I'm going to do a whole Mario board so that you guys can understand exactly how you can become insulin sensitive. Then you can take it from there. And then the most important thing about everything here is sustainability. There's no point in you dropping 20 pounds of fat and then you're just going to pick it up again. There's no point in you picking up 10 pounds of lean muscle tissue if you're going to lose it again. It's about sustainability. And in order to do that and to ensure that happens for the rest of your life, you need to prime insulin sensitivity. And there we have it, guys. But let's do the check-ins. This is also going to be the final check-in. 10 weeks is over of the lean mass method before we go deeper into the new insulin recomp method. Because I'm almost insulin sensitive, I've been through the priming phase. Now I need to move into a quick depletion phase, but that's probably only going to happen in the next 3 weeks or so, because guys, the surgery is happening next week, Thursday. I'm finally getting it done. I can't tell you guys how excited I am. These past 10 months they've been tough, right? They've been difficult. As you guys know, I haven't been able to go to the gym. I haven't been able to do half of the shit that I've been able to do. This week in particular that's just happened has been a lot better with regards to walking. 3 weeks before, as was hell, I was walking 100% skewed. You guys would have seen that in the progress photos. But now I'm walking a lot better. I'm still going to get the surgery done because I can't do shit, right? If I lift something up now, it's just going to cause damage again, and then I'm going to walk messed up again, and then it's going to push me into that negative mindset where I then have to use the mental reframe to get out of it. But I would rather just avoid that to begin with, right? It's been a long time. You know, it's been a while since I haven't been able to do the things that I usually do. So I honestly feel like I'm going to be reborn. I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna reborn. Like I've got a second chance almost in terms of I'm never gonna take my body for granted again. The fact that I have the ability to walk, and too many of us take that shit for granted, right? To be healthy. There are people out there that would give almost anything and everything to have that ability. And I will never let that shit go to waste. And I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. Yes, it was shitty what I went through. Yes, I had absolutely no control over it. But, you know, I've learned. Don't go too crazy. You know, be more functional, all those types of things. So there's going to be big changes coming. I'm also going to be enjoying life a lot more. As you guys know, you've been following me on social media. I've been super locked in, super dialed in, and you know, it got to a point where I just didn't have balance. And the balance was more toward just being locked in, grinding, like being at home. Obviously, I couldn't walk for a while, so I was like a cave rat, right? I was stuck in. But I want to live a more balanced lifestyle. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be disciplined. No, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop working toward my goals. No, I need to earn balance. Balance is earned. So if I get all of my grafting done, I make sure all of my work is sorted, I get my training in, then yes, I can enjoy that balance. And that's what it's all about. That's why I work so hard. That's what I put in this graft, because I do set myself to a certain standard, right? I do have goals, and those goals always increase. It used to be all about just getting out of that shit position that I was in, how I felt every single day, not being comfortable of who I saw in the mirror, knowing that I was always capable of more and that I'm not living up to my full potential, and just completely moving away from that negative mindset and how I really didn't enjoy life, to transforming to being able to build this physique, build discipline, and reach limits that I didn't think I was capable. But now it's completely different, right? I don't have those feelings of insecurity anymore about my physique. And I've never thought about it. I actually went to the beach the other day, and I was just chilling in the sand. I took a little work break. I got my 6 hours of solid work done, deep session in the morning, as you guys see on social every single day. I get that done. Then I go take a break. I've now been getting out of the house more to, again, promote that balance. And then when I come back, I graft some more. I do some more work. But then I feel like I'm not burnt out. And I went to the beach and I saw this kid, maybe about 16, 17. And it just reminded me of me back then, right? And the mental battle I would have to go through every time I wanted to go to the beach. I would be in the mirror and I'd try maybe 10 different shorts on, back and forth, being in my head about like, fuck, I don't feel comfortable in these shorts. Anytime I go to the beach, I think like, oh, people staring at me, like I'm so skinny. I just never felt comfortable in my own skin. And I hated every minute of it. I absolutely despise it. And I came from the beach and I just had that flashback. And I'm just like, it's not like I walk around on the beach like with all of this crazy confidence, like, damn, look at my physique. Oh, I've got such a good physique. Not at all. I don't think that way whatsoever, right? The only difference is I just sit there comfortably. And that thought never goes through my head. Is anyone looking at me? I'm so uncomfortable. It doesn't happen. I simply just don't give a shit anymore. And that's what it's all about, right? When I first made the transformation, yes, I had a ridiculous confidence boost, right? My confidence was through the roof. I could finally go to the beach and not feel insecure about the way that I looked. I never felt like someone's looking at me. Now I thought if people are looking at me, they're like, damn, he's got a good physique. Damn, I respect that, you know? And that's what I always wanted. And now that I've got that, it's humbled me. Right? I never think about those things anymore. So that was a big, flashback back then. So yeah. But anyway, check-ins are going to get done. I'm going to do a whole vlog on the day that I get the surgery done. I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk out on the same day. I'm really hoping to do so. It's not very invasive, the surgery. That's why I've been holding it out for this long, because I was hoping that the medical aid would sort it out, or I could upgrade the plan, but at the end of the day, they're not even going to allow me to go to him. He's the only surgeon in the country that does endoscopic. So that's basically, they're going to take a little cut, they're going to drill through my spinal cord, and then they're going to cut away at the disc that's pushing into that nerve. So it's just going to relieve all of that pain. So I'm very, very excited for that. But guys, that's it for today. We're going to do the check-ins, and then I'm going to take you guys through the Miro board and show you exactly how you can potentially stop smoking, reduce smoking, how you can rewire that bad habit, help you get a better understanding of why you turn to food for comfort. This in specific is going to be about why you go for food for comfort anytime an emotional trigger happens, why that habit loop is formed, and so you can get a better understanding, because the first step of rewiring a habit is becoming aware of it. Okay, then I'm going to give you the steps of how you can change that, how you can rewire that and set yourself up for success, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And the reason why I'm speaking about food for comfort, it's going to be the food comfort rewire, is because I had someone reaching out about a video that I posted last week saying how, it was week 9 of the lean mass method, saying how that video helped him so much. It helped him understand, and I'll pop this thing up on the screen somewhere here. But now I'm building this video for guys that struggle with that food. And I've had a lot of guys in the program that struggled with the exact same thing, and then we completely rewired the habit, and it's never been an issue since. So hopefully this is going to help you. Hopefully you get a better understanding and that you actually implement what I teach, because guys, I promise you it's a ton of value, and it will take you to that next level. Peace, guys. Let's see what the weight is. Boom. Now obviously it's not my normal size, right? I haven't been to the gym for the past 4 weeks now. Fuck, has it been that long? Absolutely crazy. But like I said, surgery is happening. Very excited for that. I don't know when I can be back in the gym. I'm going to obviously do it as soon as possible, but I know for the next year I'm not going to be pushing anything heavy like above, and I am going to be competing at the end of next year. You guys are about to see the craziest comeback, but I'm going to go into depth with that comeback post-surgery. So I'm going to do like a mini vlog for that day, show you guys how it went through, tell you guys how I'm feeling, see what the physios say after I do my surgery, see what the spinal surgeons say, and then I'm going to tell you guys what the next game plan is. You guys have literally seen me go through it all, right? From competing, finally winning my gold, after 2 years of competing, winning that gold, coming second in Africa, just wanting to get that pro card, and now being injured, setting me back, all of that hard work, being through the mental battles of nearly falling into that spiral of when I almost went to a dark place because, I'm 26 years old and I couldn't do half the shit I've done. I've dedicated a lot of my life to the sport, and I've dedicated a lot of, I've sacrificed a lot in the process, and then to be hit with an injury like this just, set me back, and how I got out of it. But now you guys are about to witness, the damn comeback. It's going to be one of the best damn comebacks out there. Just watch. All right, gents, we are in my dashboard. So this is week 10, basically the final week of, as you guys know, the lean mass method. And the primary objective of this is to just prime my insulin sensitivity. So now the reason why I'm priming my insulin sensitivity is because it's all planned, right? I'm structuring things in a specific way. I've planned it out because I know I've got a surgery coming up. I know for the next couple of weeks, I still can't prioritize going into the growth phase. But what I can do in the meantime is start priming my insulin sensitivity. So that when I do move into that growth phase, I'm just going to pick up lean quality tissue super, super quickly. Okay. So it's all part of the strategy. And yes, I obviously am not the size that I've always been. I haven't been able to go to the gym properly, like with full 100% intention for the past, 10 months, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know, somewhere around 10 months. And, when I did have that section of 6 weeks of training, which was week 1 to week 6. It was only 3 times per week. I could keep it very simple, very basic. And now for the past 4 weeks, I haven't been able to train. Okay. So I'm actually really happy. And my main goal isn't to just lose fat, it's to prime my insulin sensitivity. That is why I'm doing this. I was happy with the way that I looked, even when starting this challenge, but I wanted to drop the fat. And most importantly, I wanted to get that insulin sensitivity right so that you guys can see the craziest comeback, which is probably going to happen closer to next year, depending on what the recovery protocols are post-surgery. But let's have a look. So within these past 10 weeks, I have gone from 20, what's going on here? I've gone from 124 pounds to 110, let's say 110 pounds. So I have dropped 14 pounds in total in the past 10 weeks. 14 pounds of fat. Okay. That's what I've dropped. Decent amount. So that's over a pound per week. And I've barely been able to train. And this is through doing my carb cycling meal plan and following the correct structures. Guys, you don't have to go to the gym. This is literally proof. I haven't been able to walk as well properly for the past 4 weeks. I only started doing fasted cardio, a very light, brisk walk, maybe 3-4 days ago, something like that. Okay. So this proves to you it's all in the nutrition. It's all about that insulin sensitivity. So now we've got it, 14 pounds drop. Let's see what the visuals are looking like. Okay, I'm going to pop them up for you guys on the screen here so you can have a representation of where we started. So this is where we started. Let me go down. See, there's a lot of fluff. Like obviously I don't have a bad physique here, but there's still a decent amount of like fluff. It's looking like, I don't know, blurry, if you may, not as clean, not as tidy as we want. You can see it even in this photo over there, this one over there. But yeah, I wanted to drop as much body fat, prime that insulin sensitivity as possible without risking losing muscle tissue in the process. So this is where we started, and this is where we are now. Okay. See, definition is coming through a lot better now. If I was able to do core work during this time, it would be looking a hell of a lot better. Obviously, if I was able to train, it would be looking a hell of a lot better. But it is what it is. I have come to terms with what has happened. I've used that, I've reframed that, and I found a way to use it to my advantage. But even the back here, you can see the lower sections coming out more, which is brilliant compared to there. Definitely a lot more fluff around the lat section, around the mid section, the waist in particular. Whereas here it's thinned out. It's definitely gotten a lot tighter, which is good. Okay. So that is that, guys. I hope you got some value from these past 10 weeks. And now we are going to go through the Miro board of how you're going to get past that food comfort, right? How every time something happens in your life, an emotion gets spiked and you go to food for comfort. Let's hop straight into that Miro board. So here we go. The food for comfort rewire. Let's go over why you do this. Now you need to remember that every behavior has a surface level craving, but each craving has always got a deeper motive, right? You don't go for food because you're hungry. You go for it because it is a coping mechanism. You don't smoke because you necessarily enjoy the smoking. A lot of people smoke because it is a stress relief. It all may have began because of something like peer pressure, for example. I know when I started smoking, it was all based on peer pressure, right? All my friends were doing it. I wanted to fit in. I thought it was cool. And that's where it began. So for me, back then as well, it became a coping mechanism with regards to, because I was socially awkward, right? I was very socially awkward. I was very uncertain of myself, very insecure. I would never go talk to girls, do any of those types of things. So I felt like I always needed a cigarette in my hand when we were going out, because I just couldn't have conversation. Okay, I thought anytime I mentioned something, like I'm either going to say something stupid or someone's going to judge me, and that's the mentality I had back then, and that's why I always needed the cigarettes to cope. Now, most bad habits are coping mechanisms and are flaws, as we've just gone over. Now, let's talk about a difference between a good habit and a bad habit. Okay, because at the end of the day, all habits are beneficial in some sort, right? They are all going to help. Yes, smoking is not good for your health, but it's going to be better if it's relieving stress than causing that other damage, right? Because stress, if you deal with a lot of stress, it can be very detrimental to your health, right? It can set you back in every single way, and that includes building muscle, and that definitely includes losing fat. So you still need to ensure that you find a coping mechanism in order to deal with that. But the difference between a good habit and a bad habit, this is how you differentiate them. So a good habit is something that is going to take you closer to the goal that you have set out, that is going to be beneficial, right? Whereas a bad habit, even though it might be helpful in some sense, it is going to be detrimental to your desired outcome. It's going to be detrimental to the goal that you are wanting to achieve, right? Smoking, yes, it's going to have a good effect on stress, but it's going to set you back from achieving becoming healthier. Let's say your goal is to lose fat. Okay. Stress eating might help with the stress, but it's going to be extremely detrimental on your health and achieving that goal of the physique that you want to get. Okay. And that is the difference. Now, you need to understand a habit works like this. You get a cue, you get a craving, which leads to a response, which then leads to a reward. So the cue, for example, could be the stress that is triggered. Something stresses you out. Then it leads to that craving of having your cheat meal, right? The cue is going to stress you out. You get super stressed out. Now you go to what you've always known, and that is going to food for comfort. And majority of the time, the food that you go to is shit, right? It's junk food. It's rubbish because it gives you such a good little dopamine spike, that satisfaction that you get from your taste buds. And then that response is you eating that food, and the reward is the dopamine spike, right? That is the taste buds saying, oh, this is really good. I feel much better. But the problem is it's not a proper solution. And that's why you always find yourself just pigging out and you end up gaining weight and you just never get to where you want to get to. So like we just said, the cue can be emotional. It can be anything. It can be stress. It can be anger. It can be pain. Now, this can obviously be in all aspects of life. You might be financially stressed out. You might be stressed from work. You've had a shit day. You got into an argument with your girlfriend or your significant other, right? Negative beliefs. And this is what I spoke about last week, how your negative beliefs can literally do this exact same thing, the negative feedback loop, right? If you continue to tell yourself, I'm not good enough, I will never achieve this, that is going to potentially lead to that. You don't believe that you're good enough, right? That is going to just put you into that frenzy. You're going to be stressed out about it. You're going to feel upset. You're going to be angry, and that's going to lead to that. The craving is for relief. You don't crave the food. You crave that dopamine spike, as we've gone through. The response is you're going to eat. Majority of the time, it will be an unhealthy option. We've gone through every single one of these things now. So satisfaction is going to be that dopamine spike. And this is where the problem lies. Because now, what you've done, because you've done this your entire life, anytime that you get that trigger, you have associated food with the relief. You continue to associate the food with the relief. But there are so many different ways in which you can do this, right? So this is the steps on rewiring. First step is acknowledgement. Okay. You need to acknowledge that when that emotion comes up, the craving is going to be triggered, and that craving is going to be the food. Name it to tame it. This is a technique that is going to help you. It's known as the pointing and calling system, where in the book Atomic Habits, which has helped me so much. Now, let me tell you how this has helped me. I was very, very untidy. Okay. I used to just leave my shit lying around constantly. My girlfriend would be super pissed off. So this habit was obviously bad because it put me in the identity of being someone who is unorganized. And an unorganized person isn't always necessarily successful. And I choose to be the successful person. I want to excel in all aspects of life. So if I'm leaving my shit lying around, it shows that I'm giving half-arsedness. I'm giving no effort. I'm not showing up with full intention. And I want to show up with full intention because that is the man that I aspire to be. So how you do anything is how you do everything. This phrase has helped me so much. Anytime I catch myself slacking off, leaving dishes around, leaving clothes on the floor, I go, how you do anything is how you do everything. I'm calling it out. And this is where you take the unconscious habits, something that you've done for your entire life, because I grew up in a household with my mother who is not very tidy and is always scattered, right? And that's why I also had such a messed up mindset back then. I just didn't care about anything because my environment literally shaped me. Right? I was like, I don't have to worry. And I had to completely rewire that because I was going nowhere in my life. I was failing school. I had no drive. I had no passion, but I always knew I was destined for more. Okay. And I had to rewire that shit. So this has helped with one of my clients. I'll show you guys in that last video. Jared, for example, was someone who would always go to food for comfort, right? That was how he dealt with stress. Then there was a point in this program where that came up again, and he used this exact pointing calling system, or name it to tame it. And he literally said, how you do anything is how you do everything. And he stopped the sugar craving. He stopped the going to food. So the first step to changing anything is to acknowledge, because not all of us know that it is a bad habit. So when it happens, you're going to say, okay, I'm stressed out. I understand why. I am going to food, right? I want to go get some shit food, some McDonald's. I want to go get a sweet so that I can cope with it. But now you're aware of what you're doing. Okay, I'm stressed out. Usually I would go and get food, right, to deal with it. But now that I know that the only reason why I go to food is because of that dopamine spike, I now have a choice. I have a choice to either go to the food or figure out another way to deal with that, right? So environmental design is going to be your next step. You need to ensure, because you can't always rely on willpower. Not everybody has yet developed the mindset to overcome it. Not everybody has the ridiculous willpower to overcome it within that moment. So if that cue is triggered, right, and it leads to that craving, if you have set up your environment just like I did with the smoking, of where I put my cigarettes at the top and I hit it, you can do the exact same thing. Make sure that you eliminate all of the bad foods that you usually go to within your environment, within your home. Make sure your pantry isn't filled with the shit that you usually go to. Then you're not going to get there, because when that happens and you quickly replace it, which we're going to go through now of how you rewire that, you have to get in the car, go to the shop, and then go and buy that treat, right? Or that junk food. Whereas majority of the time, humans will only do something if it comes easy. So you need to make it invisible. Make sure that you don't have any cues lying around. You don't have that cookie jar. Another technique that you can do with this, then, so you're going to make it invisible, right? Another technique that you're going to do is make it invisible. Like if your go-to these days, Uber Eats is so easy. It's so accessible on your phone. Delete the damn app. Delete it. And if you say, oh, I don't want to delete it, well, then you don't want this goal enough. If you're not willing to make the sacrifices for the moment, then I don't know what to tell you. You aren't ready for change. Okay, you're not ready. You don't want it bad enough. For those of you who want it bad enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been in that position. Okay, I was in a position where I absolutely hated life. I hated the person that I was. I hated feeling the way that I felt every single day. So I made the choice to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, train twice per week. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to train twice per week. I didn't know a lot back then. I thought that's what it took. But I made the sacrifice and I got up early every single day and I trained. Okay. So that is that. Create friction, make it difficult. And that's again how I put the cigarettes at the top. It became a mission to do. How you can make it difficult. Yes, you can delete Uber app, but you can always re-download it. But now I want you to remove all of your card details, delete your account. Okay. And then only on the days where you have your cheat meal, you can either go out for dinner, which is going to be better, or you can re-download Uber Eats. And if you think that that's a mission, once again, you're not ready for the change. So you need to make it invisible and you need to create friction. Set up your environment now that you are aware of the deeper motive as to why food, you go to food for comfort. You need to find a new association or a coping mechanism for this. Okay. And that can be anything, right? Because all it is at the end of the day is the dopamine spike, is that satisfaction. Next time that stress happens, go for a walk, okay? Clear your head. Listen to your favorite type of music. Just clear that space, because that is not going to last forever, right? You're going through that stressful feeling. And this is where you need to also come to terms. This is why mindset is so crucial. And the next video I'm going to make is how you can reframe a specific situation and look at things differently. Because whatever has happened, it's happened. It sucks, right? You're feeling it. You've had a shit day at work. It is what it is. But the sooner you come to the realization that bitching about it, complaining about it, right? Going to eat trash food, smoking that cigarette, yes, it might give you temporary relief, but it's not going to put you forward, okay? And if you can reframe your mindset, you can be like, okay, this has happened. That's fine. Let me find a way to deal with this. Let me find something that is going to benefit me. And that can easily be done through meditation, breath work, man. If you're in your office and your boss just shat on you, go sit in your chair, do some breath work, calm down, okay? Walking is going to release dopamine. It's going to give you serotonin. Training, one of the best coping mechanisms, techniques. This is one of the biggest reasons as well why I love to train, because it is literally my therapy. Another way that I like to deal with stress, if I've had a shit day, specifically now that I haven't been able to train, I go do DIY stuff. That lets me think, right? It gets me like my juices flowing. It helps me calm down. I sit with myself for a minute. The exact same thing. A lot of people get there with cleaning, right? Cleaning can be very therapeutic. Doing the dishes, boxing. If you pissed off, go and join a boxing club, man. You know, do some MMA, do some mixed martial arts, just do something other than that bad thing, something that is going to set you up in the right direction. And that is how you rewire it. It's very simple once you understand the reason why you do what you do. Okay. And if you're not sure of how to do this, send me a DM and I'll help you set up these systems. Guys, I hope you found this valuable, and I will see you guys for the next video, which is going to be the surgery. Peace.